Teenagers often argue with their parents about underachieving grades at school. But in this bizarre, tragic case, a heated argument over a teen's D grade led to one of the most disturbing matricides on record. But can receiving a bad grade really provoke a teenage boy to kill his own mom? Let's get into it. In 2018, Florida teenager Gregory Ramos seemed to have a bright future ahead of him. He was a proficient student of Taekwondo and a keen member of the Orange City Police Explorers Youth Group. For his future career, he apparently wanted to become a homicide detective. To anyone else, looks like a sweet, normal teenage boy. Just don't look in his eyes. He even appeared in a chirpy video promoting all the fun activities for freshmen at his high school, University High School in Orange City. He looks a little awkward, but nothing sinister here, right? So far, so normal. But when Greg reached his mid-teens, all of that was about to turn upside down. Records show that on November 2nd, 2018, Greg Ramos had a major argument with his mom, Gail Clevenger, 46, after receiving a D grade in school. They had a big fight, and then he went to bed. The next day, Ramos left early and came home from school to find his house ransacked and his mother missing, with her car still running in the driveway.
I checked the entire house because I was looking for her, but she's not here.
Now, that's a pretty scary situation for any teenager to find themselves in. Insisting to police that his mother must have been kidnapped by the burglars, Ramos told deputies that he had last seen his mother around 6:30 a.m. that morning as he left for class. He reported that she was missing from when he got off the school bus at 3:45 p.m. But the experienced detectives quickly became suspicious of the crime scene and soon found numerous holes in the teenager's story. For instance, local police had quickly recovered dumped property from the break-in, including a PlayStation 4 and a gun in some nearby woods. Not a very likely place for burglars to leave all that valuable equipment, right? The police became even more suspicious of numerous scratch marks on Ramos' face, to which the investigators looked worryingly like defensive wounds. All the same, Ramos continued to insist that he had been in school from morning until mid-afternoon and had ridden on the bus. Detectives easily verified that these details were completely untrue, and the investigators immediately took Ramos into the police station for questioning. The chilling truth began to unfold after a short while in custody. Facing some tough questioning, Ramos finally confessed everything he'd done to his mother during his interrogation with Sergeant A.J. Palagari. He wasn't very emotional about it at all. He used some expletives and said, "I'll tell you what happened." Very cold, calculated, and very proud of what he did. The truth was even more upsetting than they had feared. After a fight with his mother over receiving a D grade, although who honestly knows what else was going on between them, Ramos had waited until midnight, then gone into his mother's bedroom while she was sleeping and killed her. Then he went to get something to move her with. Horrifyingly, when Ramos heard her trying to call out again and realized she wasn't quite dead, he then took about another 30 minutes to finish his mother with his bare hands. He then placed her body in a wheelbarrow, pushed it outside, and loaded her into the family van. Ramos drove around for nearly an hour looking for somewhere to leave her. For help with the burial, he enlisted two of his school friends, Dylan Clairgick and Brian Porras. Interestingly, these friends have since denied having such a close connection to him. They ended up behind a local church, and the three of them dug a shallow grave under a fire pit, which is where they left her. The two friends also helped Ramos stage the burglary in a clumsy attempt to cover up his crimes. Unbelievably, the next day, Ramos left and went to school. When he came home, he made that oh-so-convincing call to the police. In fact, on the body cam footage taken by the police at the scene, Ramos kind of appears genuinely shaken and upset.
I checked the entire house because I was looking for her, but she's not here.
However, the experienced investigators described the teenager as a soulless individual who thought he was the smartest person in the room, adding that he displayed none of the expected emotions during his questioning. He would later boast to police that his call to report the burglary deserved a Grammy Award. Speaking later, Sheriff Mike Chitwood described the callous teen as one of the top 3 sociopaths he had ever come in contact with in 33 years of policing. Sociopathy is a personality disorder, sometimes manifesting itself in extreme antisocial attitudes and behavior. Ramos had apparently bragged about killing his mother while in custody. The sheriff reported that the teenager had behaved strangely after his confession, especially when he was showing the police what happened in the crime scene.
And he got out of that car and went to that crime scene like a little kid would go to Christmas morning down the steps. and show us and tell us once again everything that he had done to his mother.
Police had also recovered a shovel and broom used to bury Gail Clevenger and tidy up the scene around the fire pit. The two friends from school, also juveniles at the time, were not present when Ramos took the life of his mother. However, they were still charged in this case as adults with accessory after the fact to first-degree homicide. Now almost an adult, Ramos eventually pleaded guilty for all 3 charges and even expressed remorse for his actions at the trial in late December 2020.
There are so many conversations that I want to have with her, but now cannot. Because of my actions, I will never get to truly know my mom.
Ramos also said he tries to be guided by his mother's memory. Every day I try my hardest to honor my mother's memory. I try to live the way she would have wanted me to live. Ramos managed to earn his high school diploma during the 800 days spent awaiting trial, and he apparently tries to help other inmates with their school and legal work. His lawyer, naturally, insisted he was upset about what he'd done. During the closing stages of the trial, his visually impaired grandmother asked Judge Upchurch for permission to approach Ramos. In an unexpected show of compassion for her grandson, she wanted to be close enough so she could make out his facial features and say a prayer. The judge allowed it, and she went up to Ramos and said a final prayer over her grandson. Afterward, a grand jury indicted Ramos as an adult on a charge of first-degree homicide, and he was led away to begin his sentence. Because Ramos was a juvenile at the time of his crime, he couldn't be sentenced to the mandatory life without any chance of release. However, tried as an adult offender, he now faces 45 years in prison. This is because, unusually, the police insisted that he and his 2 classmates should all be charged as adults. The reason being that if they were tried as juveniles, they could be released from prison by the time they were 21, after barely 4 years. Now considered an adult, Ramos' sentence can be reviewed again in 25 years, but he will serve a lifetime of probation. He is also due to serve a further 15 years for the charges of maltreatment of a body due to the burial, and 5 more years on tampering charge. That means he probably won't get out until at least 2063. In attempting to defend his actions, Ramos claimed that the argument over his grades turned physical when his mother struck him in the face. The detectives also cited the teen's motive as rage, but neighbors and family all claim that his mother was a wonderful, caring person. You just want to cry. She was such a nice lady. So what could have tipped Ramos over the edge? Some theorize that exposure to extreme political beliefs played a significant role in his callous mindset, although we can really only speculate. Neighbors also have their own opinion of Ramos' character and attitude. Perhaps he had always been this dangerous and ready to go too far.
When they first moved in, I would try to get my son to have him over and play games and all. My son didn't want no part of us. Mom, he's a weird kid.
But whatever the real motive or possible provocation behind his violent actions, this remains a truly horrible crime. Whether Ramos deserves forgiveness or not, the courts have now delivered the appropriate justice for his poor mother, Gail.
Person that she brought into this world and nurtured, she's staring in his eyes as he's trying to kill her. I just cannot believe how that must have been for her.
It remains deeply ironic that an ambitious young boy, who one day had hoped to become a homicide detective, ended up playing a very different and very horrifying role in the world. We can only hope now that Greg's apparent remorse was genuine. That brings us to the end of today's video. What do you think of this case? Do you really think Greg did this all over a fight about his grades or in a fit of rage? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below.